It's the foreheads. It's the foreheads. We're in our rooms and we're talking about AI.
What's going on, you magnificent marsupials? This is the Foreheads Podcast, the greatest disaster on the internet. I'm Goldenboy. You got Sideshow, Bren, and Reinforce. And today we're just going to talk about some stuff because the world has been a weird place. You guys like the magnificent marsupials?
I did, yeah, actually.
What is that?
You don't know what a marsupial is?
Marsupials?
No, I was saying you don't know what
marsupial
is.
Marsupial?
A
Is that a
marsupial.
Marvel thing?
No. A kangaroo is a marsupial. It's a type of animal. It's the type of animal that has like pouches
so
at
it's
the
like
front of them.
So it's like a family, like an animal. Marsupial.
Yeah, it's like a group.
mammal.
I mean,
like
it's
a
not a
group of
family.
mammals.
It's not a family in like a societal sense.
No, but that's what
Yeah.
we call it in Sweden. We say like there's a group of animals that are like similar. They're a family.
Okay, yeah, we have
Like a species family. I don't know.
right. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You know what I actually think is interesting? Wait, I what is the difference? So it's called an opossum, but I've always called it a possum.
It is a possum. It's a silent O at the beginning. I don't know why. And in the
Dude.
UK, it's just spelt possum. But apparently in the
Yeah.
in the US, you like to spell it with an extra O. I don't know why.
How do you know that?
How does who know what?
How do you know that there's a silent O?
Because
How did you find this out?
because I saw it written down, and I think
Wikipedia.
I probably said a possum, and someone was like, "What are you talking about? That's just pronounced possum."
So strange how Americans like to add unnecessary letters and also remove the necessary letters from the English language.
The opossum is a marsupial of the order Didelphimorphia, endemic to the Americas. Thank you for that.
I'm
also
actually
should
looking it
spend
up.
A
Hold
minute
on.
talking about sugar gliders because they look awesome.
Sugar
Well,
gliders
I'm
do
just
look
very
awesome.
looking
big
it up.
eyes.
Wait, sugar gliders, you said?
Sugar
Sugar
gliders. Very big
gliders.
eyes on sugar gliders.
Sugar,
able to-
so cool.
Yeah.
sugar gliders.
They go
Oh,
able to see
yeah.
in the dark.
That's
Oh, it's like a
uh,
flying
Sure.
squirrel or something like
yeah.
Kind of
It's like it's the tier 7 animal.
Hmm
that.
tier 7 animal.
Yeah, the
You know our
Content
famous
house.
streaming house brand?
Yeah.
Tier 7.
Yeah.
that's done so
I-
much.
I just purposely set you guys up to introduce your brand.
Oh, thank
That
you.
was sick, yeah.
Mm.
No, but
Oh,
like a
is-
sugar gliders type of animal, like I could see myself like on my shoulder. I would like feed it pineapple and stuff, and it'd be like make cute noises like. Beep, 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 beep.
Actually, judging by these pictures, you'd feed it maggots, I guess.
Shut up! Yeah, we didn't want to bring that up. We didn't have to bring that up.
What do
I'm
they
just saying
eat?
pineapple is cuter.
What do they eat? Let's find out.
They're insectivores and omnivores. They eat insects, meat, and vegetation, but not all of them are suitable for sugar gliders. More information. I must know more information. What is this? Just random adverts all over the place.
Dude, there's a thing. I searched up sugar gliders. What do they eat? And then I get sugar glider diet. And then I click on the link and it's caring for your pet sugar glider.
Yeah. I'm sure in
That-
some parts of
that's
the
pretty
world
bad.
it's legal.
That's
That-
pretty bad though. Like you shouldn't be keeping sugar gliders as pets.
I put it in the
Because-
doc.
They're nocturnal animals. You know,
Mate,
They're like
if Joe Exotic can keep lions, I can keep a fucking sugar glider.
well, not ethically.
True.
Dude, that's like the line of the day. If, I haven't even watched that show, but it's just how Johnny said it with so much passion. You know, he said it with so much passion.
I saw a video. Like, there's so much
Damn
shit
it.
going on social media. I'm sorry, Goldenboy.
Mm,
There's
mm.
so much like bad
for it,
shit
Bob.
going on social media, and just randomly the other day, a video pops up of a guy having a goose as a pet on a leash, and he's just walking the streets, and the goose is just flying next to him with a leash on it, and it just blew my mind. This goose was like flying in slow motion next to him. I need to find this somewhere.
Sorry,
You
what?
have
I can't even understand what the heck you're talking about.
You know, like a goose.
Yeah, I understand a goose. I am familiar
Yeah.
with the goose.
The
Yeah.
concept of it, at least.
Yeah.
Someone had it on a leash and just took it like for a fly, I guess.
Oh, so it's like hovering in the air on a leash.
Yeah.
That sounds like it would be really unpleasant. I don't know why that sounds like it'd be worse than walking on a leash, but I guess like when you're flying, you need to maintain some kind of.
Or you can
Well,
just
I
let
found
the goose live. Let the goose live and let it be free and fly like
who
the
the-
way it was intended to.
Who the
I
fuck
found
puts
it-
a leash on a goose?
Yeah, that's
I'm
like
making it in a dock.
you know what always tripped me up, man. This always messed me up when you put leashes on kids. I just can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, my
Holy crap, dude! This video was great.
what is this? Okay,
What the hell?
pet goose. All right, so it's not around its neck; it's a chest harness, which is very much less cruel. That's a very nice thing to do. Is he just making sure it doesn't have to stand on the road? I don't
Exercise.
I mean, maybe the goose seems pretty happy. Honestly, he just
Yeah.
gets to the side
Bro.
and he's just like, you
But
know
he's
what?
just- He just lifted it up.
Yeah. Did he like lift him up? That's what I need to know. Did he
No,
initiate the lift?
Yeah, he lifted, and the goose was like, "Oh, I guess I have to fly." It like kicked in his flight instincts, you know.
It's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably a sick goose that he's looking after, right?
yeah.
Like people, I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but most people don't have a pet goose that they go and take for a walk. But some people do look after sick animals.
Yeah.
I also just like this tweet literally says pet goose. That's it. That's it. I mean, that's all you need. That's the tweet right there.
Johnny,
Pet
how did you
goose.
even find this tweet? It's got 2 retweets and 5 likes, and it's of a.
Who are you following?
I went on Twitter and just searched goose. Just going,
Why?
just goose.
All right.
And I had
then
Van
you-
Thoy come in.
And
clutch.
then you got that lady who's like walking by, and she must be like, "What in God's green earth am I looking at right here?" Like, and she walks right next to the guy, and the dude's in the car too. Like, you're just baffled at that point as to like what it is that you're watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
It would make
incredible.
my day though.
That actually really did. It really did. So
I've
Very
been reading
strange.
about sugar gliders in this time, and
Okay.
go ahead, go
and
on.
just the legality of them, and they're illegal in California. You can't have them in California, but I'm surprised that in a lot of states in America, it's okay to have one.
Yeah,
They're just cool with it.
A lot of
I don't
American
get it.
states seem not to legislate anything to do with which pets you can have and which you can't. Like, there's people with all sorts. I mean, that's the whole like caring for tigers thing as well, isn't it? It's.
Yeah.
I don't know why they've never legislated that. It's very weird. The more I learn about American law, the more none of it makes sense.
Oh, they are apparently bred in large numbers in the U.S.
Sugar gliders,
Yeah,
but are they bred in order to be pets? Is there some kind of?
in order to be pets.
That's quite cruel.
You know, you say a lot of the things don't make sense to you, and Josh, I would just say that you are right. A lot of our laws and government and everything, none of it makes sense. Like a lot of it is it's like the random obscure laws that we talked about in the last episode where it was removed, it was banned, or it was removed from the Constitution. I forget what state it was, but it was like if you put vanilla ice cream on apple pie, that is like
What?
a crime. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
what?
we talked about this.
Did we? Are you sure
alright.
that wasn't your fever dream?
Could have been. Let me look. There's
what are you talking
a
about?
there are a lot of old laws that like existed in this country like prior, because you know, I mean, the internet and everything, there wasn't like a lot of communication across the board, right?
Sure.
So random laws were just created for some odd reason that could like jail you or whatever. And one of those random laws was, I don't know where it was, but it was that if you put vanilla ice cream on apple pie, you will go to jail. So it was just like, yeah, just one of those things. Like, okay, in Alaska, a person cannot get drunk in a bar and remain on the premise. The statute says an intoxicated person may not knowingly enter or camp out where alcohol is sold. So like, if you are drunk, you can't be anywhere where there is alcohol, you know? But yet, how did you get drunk? Like that doesn't
Well,
make
what's
any
the
sense.
bar?
I think
for
it's
being
like
drunk.
they probably set that law up to stop people who are already drunk from drinking more, right?
Yeah, well, this
Presumably.
one, Arkansas, a pinball machine can't give away more than 25 free games to a player who keeps winning. The statute aims to prohibit machines to encourage gambling, but like, it's
That's
a pinball
kinda weird.
machine.
You know, in the
You
UK,
know?
it's illegal to gamble in a library.
Really?
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, I mean, in every country there are weird, outdated laws. Like, I'm pretty sure Oliver Cromwell tried to like ban Christmas puddings or something. He really hated Christmas, so I think he just had like laws against certain traditions that were held at Christmas. I can't remember the exact details, but nobody follows them and nobody enforces them. Yeah, I mean, it's also like I think it's like treasonous to tear up anything with the Queen's face on it, so like postage stamps or even fake money and stuff like that. But again, nobody's going around making sure that you keep your monopoly money
This is
intact.
a weird one. In Connecticut, junk collectors it should beware that in Hartford it is illegal to collect rags, paper, glass, old metal, junk, cinders, or other waste matter in the city. So without a license. So you can't actually have a stack of paper without a license.
What?
So
No.
yeah. Yes.
Oh, you can't pick it up. You can't pick it up off the street without a license.
Oh, it is
right?
illegal to collect. Yeah.
Collect.
But even then, that's still like, what? That doesn't make like, so if I just went, if someone left a stack of paper on the street and I just went and grabbed it, right, for whatever reason, let's say like someone, for whatever reason, put a stack of paper on the sidewalk and a cop saw me and pick up the stack of paper, he technically could arrest me if I don't have a license to pick up that stack of paper.
Yeah,
I feel like you wouldn't get charged for it, you know?
Yes, you wouldn't, obviously. I'm just saying that technically it is a thing.
Did you
know?
Did you know that sugar gliders live in families with colonies consisting up to 7 adults?
Enough with the damn
Plus-
sugar gliders.
plus the
It's
current
not that
season's young.
interesting.
Can you find out what they're called, sugar gliders?
I give up. I move on.
I
If
think
they're
it's a
eating maggots, they have nothing to do with sugar.
nectar. They were when they commonly found them, they would suckle the nectar.
Okay,
out
I
of
don't want to know.
trees.
Okay.
Anything
or
you
plants.
associate the word suckle with, I don't want to be anywhere near. Like, I just want to get away.
Suckle.
Suckle. It's a disgusting word. It might be one of the worst words in.
No,
the
I
world.
disagree. Moist is
So
the best.
here's a
the best
picture I'm
word.
going to link in the doc of a sugar glider.
Moist.
I'm going to put it after your goose
Suckle.
tweet.
Suckle.
There you go.
Actually,
There's a
suckle's
picture of
pretty bad.
a long-tailed subspecies of sugar glider attracted to sugar water on a tree in Crater Lakes National Park,
Oh.
Queensland.
Oh, that's cute.
There you go.
Okay.
I just thought those are called flying squirrels.
Well,
It's quite literal.
you are very Kekona, so that's understandable.
Oh, no, hold on. Is a sugar glider, right? Sugar glider. The same as a flying squirrel. It's like one of the sugar gliders and flying squirrels look amazingly similar. Not Kekona, you jackass. They are both furry animals of about the same size with big eyes and a white belly. And they both glide from treetops using a thin piece of skin that is stretched between their legs. When you describe it like that, by the way, it sounds freaking disgusting. Hold on.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Flying squirrels, on the other hand, have much larger babies and no pouch. Apparently, that's the only difference between them is the fact that
Wait, they have large babies?
Yeah, sugar gliders have a pouch like a kangaroo does, which provides shelter and safety for their tiny babies. A birth at baby sugar glider is smaller than a peanut. Oh, how cute. Flying squirrels, on the other hand, have much larger babies and no pouch.
When you guys were young, did you ever dream of being in a kangaroo pouch?
Can't say I did.
No. Nope. Not once. Not ever, in fact.
No, but my reality was shattered because I watched Winnie the Pooh as a child, and there was
that's
Roo.
where it's from.
Yeah, and there was the mama and Roo would come out of the mama's pouch, right?
Right.
And then years later, I then learned that the pouch is cute. Wait a minute, it's actually covered with like goo and shit. So like, if Roo came out of the pouch, he would just be gooey the whole time.
Yeah.
And it shattered my mind because I did think that it would be cool. Only until then I learned that the pouch was
quite
rather
interesting.
moist.
I wonder why it's gooey.
because that's kind of the developmental area for the young to grow up in. There has to be some way of it to stay warm, to interact with like the nutrients that it needs to be able to develop. It's kind of like an external place for it to continue development after it's been
mammary glands.
I mean that's just nipples.
Cool.
Sorry, what you called me? Mammary gland?
Yeah, you fucking
it's pretty cool though. Like it's
Dude, that's an insult. You're playing Valorant, someone talks shit to you, and you're like, "Yo, man, how about you shut up, you mammary gland?" They're gonna be like, "The fuck you just said?"
What? This guy is scientist.
Golden Boy.
I'm sorry, what'd you just call me? Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that. But that must be weird because like you can never wear pants because you always got like a pouch. You know,
No, dude.
Oh!
What the fuck are you talking about? Listen.
Apparently, baby kangaroos can like pee and poop in the pouch, so it smells like ass.
no.
Huh.
Well, yeah, where else are they gonna put it?
Bro, that shit
But
shatters
find
my
it
I don't know.
interesting, right? Because I was
On the
wondering, like,
ground.
why would they not like have just fur on the inside so it's nice, nice and comfy? But then I imagine that makes it easier for kind of like insects to make their homes inside the pouch as well, which would be
Yeah.
pretty bad. So you want it to be like a slimy environment that a child wouldn't care about, but an insect would die in.
You know, sugar glider stonks are going up, but kangaroo pouch stonks are going down. Like, I don't want to be in a pouch with shit and pee in it. Like,
Well, you wouldn't fit.
That's called your home, man.
no, but it's about toying with the idea of.
Okay.
Never mind. What are we
Speaking
talking
of
about?
pets, my mum got
Oh, no.
she's going to get, now I don't know why she's doing this because she's already taking care of a dog and I think one pet is enough, but recently my mum and my sister moved into they finally got a house again. There's a whole load of complicated stuff about this, but they finally got a house again, and my sister really wanted a Bengal cat mixed with, no, not mixed with anything, but like just a Bengal cat. And so now they're getting one. It's mixed with like a Moggy, which is a kind of like just a general mixed breed of cat, and yeah, do you know about Bengal cats, guys?
No.
Looks
Bengal
like
cat.
Yeah,
Bengal cat.
very, very energetic cats, and I
Mm.
like so much so that some people walk them.
Oh wow.
I don't know if this is a good idea for my family to get, but God bless them, my family. We don't have a lot of good ideas, but by George, do we stick by them?
Dude, this is I didn't even know that this was a thing.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
they had a very exotic looking. I think we
Yeah.
just googled Bengal cat.
Yeah, just look up Bengal cat and
Yeah.
they're almost dog-like.
Yeah,
Like-
they're in the way they act. Yeah.
A pet can
Very
make a
playful.
huge difference, though. So, how many pets does your parents have? And they're
Well,
adding a Bengal
my
cat.
my mum and my sister, they just have one dog. So I'm curious how the dog is gonna
Yeah.
do around a Bengal cat. But if they properly integrate them, it's a good time as well if you're gonna get a new pet when you're at home all the time, right?
Yeah.
You can
Fair enough,
you
yeah.
can make sure to properly take care of it. But
Yeah. Me and my
Oh,
girlfriend got a dog, and it was like game changer. Like,
I
Oh,
can
it
it's
helps.
imagine.
just incredible. This
It helps.
animal is just
I'm
incredible.
watching an Animal Planet video on Bengal cats.
Having Stella here has actually been like the most therapeutic thing because since I traveled so much for like the last like 3 years that I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with Stella. And now that I'm home more and she's just always with me. And it's great. Like when I stream, she'll like come into the office and sit down by her bed.
Hell yeah.
That could also be because I give her bacon when I make breakfast in the morning. But
Yeah.
I don't give her a whole piece of bacon, by the way, just so people aren't freaking out. I give her like a little tiny,
A little
or like a
treat.
real tiny piece of
Little
bacon.
treat.
Yeah, that I give her. I try and make her savor it, So like, because I want her to understand the concept of enjoying something. I don't know if she does or ever will, but every time I give her, oh hi Stella, yeah. So
She
Stella's
can
her
hear you
up.
say the
Lift her
word
up.
bacon.
Lift her up.
Yeah.
Do you think you can pick her up? She won't let you,
she,
right?
She hates being picked up.
She won't let you. Because, listen, Golden Boy's painting a pretty picture, but there's a feud in that house.
There is a feud. So this is Stella.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
Oh.
Oh, my
And
Right now,
God.
she is trying everything in her power to get away from me.
Yeah.
She
You can put her
hates being
down.
picked up.
Oh.
You
put
just
her
grew
down.
another arm, Alex.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's my wife, Cynthia. And as you all know, I'm from the Bronx. Anyway, moving on. And I'm Puerto Rican. So
Puerto
there you
Rican.
go.
Yeah.
Mother of God.
What's going on in wrestling, Goldenboy?
Somewhere, GB, somewhere out there, someone just took 3 back-to-back shots.
Yo, dude, comment on top of our latest. By the way, a huge shout out to our YouTube audience. 15,000 views on our last episode, which is pretty
Really?
sick. The one where we talked about
Wait,
video
15?
games. Yeah, 15,000. I think maybe we should talk about video games a little bit more. But the first thing I see there is from Nits Conquers, and it says nobody. Golden Boy, me and my wife. Oh man. Yeah, 1 minute 45 seconds in, and the Alex rules alone. I've already taken 5 shots. The efficient piggy said that. So
I think the reason that I think the reason it's got so many views is because that was the episode where I said I woke up and I thought that the world hated me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they posted it on Reddit, and then
yeah.
it got like
yeah.
3,000 upvotes or something.
Yeah.
That
Actually, the
makes a lot of
best
sense.
marketing campaign of all time.
Yeah, people were very committed to making Bren's nightmare a reality, which I got to applaud them for. Thank you if you were one of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was also another thread that I gotta find it that Johnny shared. Where was it? Where'd you put it, Johnny?
What?
No, someone sent. I don't know if it was Johnny or
yeah, I sent you a link about people were like happy for you about Titan games because they were watching Titan games and they were like, I recognize that voice, but I can't tell like who's the commentator. And then you showed up on screen and they were like, oh, it's Goldenboy. That's so sick, you know. And they like made a thread and they were like, I'm so happy for Goldenboy. You know, like hasn't been
Dude,
in
it was
Overwatch
sick.
for a while, but
What a
we love him.
glow up.
Yeah, dude. No,
Glow
it was
up?
sick.
No, Goldenboy's always been glowing, shining.
It made me really happy.
That's
that
just the
people-
sweat on his brow.
Yeah, that's just how I'm always shiny, dude. No, it made me really happy though that people like it. I know this is gonna sound like rather pandery or biased, but like I genuinely do believe that this is that like this season of Titan Games is just exciting television, like top to bottom. Like it's just good. They learned like a ton of stuff because I think like last time they made the show like Giant Man Ninja Warrior, which Ninja Warrior is like super special in its own right, and it has a format that works. But you know you can't blame them because like they took a formula that works and then they iterated and did something, you know, but kind of kept it within the same tone. Whereas like this season is like completely different. You know, you got the concept of the reigning Titans, the storylines that will inevitably come out of that, the different regions and who's the best out of which region. You have multiple winners, multiple matches, more, and it's also not like hitting you over the head with like numbers and statistics, like, you know. And that was one of the things that they told me when I was doing my live call, where they were like, you don't have to go nuts about telling people that this weight is 250 pounds. You could just say it's extremely heavy. Like, I don't think people necessarily care. And then like if it's noticeable, right? Like when you would drop down to Mount Olympus and you're pulling the ball and chain, that's 250, 300 pounds. That's noticeable to like, if someone's doing it in one fell swoop, you know, like that's 300 pounds that they're dragging across the arena.
It's like that's like another me.
Yeah, like that's sick, right? Like to me, that like another human being dragging across. So yeah, so I actually think it's like really good. Yeah. But
So-
I do want to say thank you to everyone who said that. That was really nice of you.
Real quick, because we're on the topic of Golden Boy. Just had a dream. This is a tweet from Hexagrams. I should probably say this. Hexagrams just tweeted. Hex doesn't tweet often, but he just tweeted, just had a dream where I was telling Golden Boy about a new game, and then I yawned and said, why do I feel so potato? And then I woke up feeling dead tired, which I dare say is very potato.
There you go. You know, he doesn't tweet very often, but when he does tweet, it's a banger.
Yep. He's really trying to hit that 20K mark of followers. He's actually very close.
Dude, Can we get hexagrams to 20,000 followers? You know, like, come on, guys.
I think
let's
he's
do
probably
this.
doing it by himself.
But
by tweeting about you and potatoes, which everyone knows are the two things that the internet cares about the most.
He didn't
Yeah.
tag you though, which tells me he's not hunting for clout.
Yeah, but I
know
did
what
give
I
him the retweet because I do find it to be genuinely funny. And it makes sense though that he would talk about that with me because I'm always talking about new games, you know? So
Yeah.
it makes sense. Speaking of new games, I actually played my first D&D one shot last night. That was the coolest thing I'd ever done. And I've done some cool things. And that was cool.
You think that was
loved
the
it.
coolest thing you've ever done?
Dude, it's up there. Like maybe top 3.
Yeah,
Top
D&D
3.
is very fun.
Really, you enjoyed it that
had
much? I'm glad.
I loved it. I would say like walking out Barclays Overwatch League Grand Finals. Number 2.
Come on.
Number 2.
Working a TV show with Dwayne Johnson, number 1. Playing D&D, number 3. Yeah, no,
Okay.
that was really fun. I had such a blast with it.
Yeah,
Is Cynthia not in your top 3?
Is what?
Is
Wow,
Cynthia not in your top
Cynthia
3?
not in the top 3.
Well, my marriage, I'm talking about like my stuff in gaming and my career.
Right.
I really set
no,
you
no.
up poorly there. I really tried to undermine you.
My
Not gonna
God.
lie, I kind of sort of forgot about it for a moment there. My bad. No, but it was sick. Like, and then it was even better was when I came out after we were done. I went to Cynthia and I was just like, babe, I did this, and then I like destroyed this dragon, and then it did damage, and then I did it again, and then I killed myself, but I realized I could have moved, and I didn't move, and then all this other stuff, and she's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, she's like, did you win? Did you bring honor to our home? And I said, no, honey, I lost. She's like, then get out of here with that shit, you know, and then that was it.
You need to get Cynthia in the future. You need to get her involved, and then she'll understand when you tell her about exploding dragons and stuff.
Yeah, it's weird because everyone always says like D&D is just your imagination, right? And it's whatever it is you can think of. And then I always was like, no, but there has to be some kind of rule, right? There has to be some, and I noticed that there is. But then Bren used his bag of holding to just send you guys to another dimension, and at that point, I realized there is no rule. Like you just do whatever the fuck.
Well, you do whatever the DM allows you to do, and in one shots you can do a lot more ass pulling. But I've done some dumb shit in the campaign that we run all the time. Like I suplexed a storm giant, which is supposed to be like 5 times the physical size of my character. I suplexed him off a cloud and activated an immovable rod underneath his neck and then ripped his spine out of his body to instantly kill him.
But all of that stemmed from, like, how did you do that? Did you just say, like, oh, I'm going to suplex this guy, and then you just roll a natural 20?
I said, Joe, I've got something planned, but it's going to take a bit of ass pulling. And then I explained what I wanted to do, and he said, okay, you need to roll an athletics check to push him off. And then once you're in the air, you got to roll multiple times to try and get this done. And it took a lot. I had to get like, we have an active god system of our D&D campaign where if it reaches like 10 subs, 20 subs, 30 subs, 40, 50, whatever, then the chat can directly affect our game using money, real world currency.
Wow.
And they paid, and then I got a boon from one of the gods in the universe, and he gave me the strength of a fire giant, which helped me succeed on a lot of my rolls.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
One of my viewers, some guy, he just said, I forgot what it was. He was like, Joe's an awesome DM. Bren loves to keep pushing the boundaries with him. You should have seen the absurdity Bren pulled last arc of the main quest. And then there was Kassa who pulled some absurd Jason Bourne shit as a monk halfling.
Yeah.
So shout out to some guy who's always in the chat and in my Discord. He watches you guys quite a bit.
I played D&D for the first time last year, and we did it at Doha's place. And it was what? What are you laughing?
You just sounded like you said Doha, like the.
I did second. Yeah, I meant Doha. Doha. Yeah,
not Doha, but Doha.
But it was so sick. So like I did the stream stuff too, where we did it on like Casters and Castles as well. But I felt more pressure because we had all the lights on. We were in that room for like 4 hours. I just felt more pressure to like put on a character and not be myself. But like, I think you've only experienced the part where you like turn on Discord and you have like a website up or whatever, Goldenboy. But when you do it in person with other people and like you have a few drinks and you can talk about whatever, like that's where D&D for me really shines. Where it's this like, it's almost like a social tabletop game, but then you add so much complexity to it and so many dimensions to it by the fact that you're in a fantasy world and you build a character and it's like an RPG. And like that's where D&D to me really shines. And I honestly like miss those evenings where we just go to Doha and just like bring a bottle of wine, we'd order food, and we just hang out in like a kind of like a mood lighting, like that around the table, just chatting, having a good time. That's where D&D for me really was like the fun shit, like a great break of your week where like you didn't think about work or anything. You could just go there and like I played my dwarf paladin and like I'm the worst role player in the world. Like I'm terrible. So like Bren talks about like suplexing giants and then maybe like Costa pull off some like Jason Bourne shit. Either I'm the guy who's so uncreative that I'm like, I'm going to slam my hammer against this guy, rolling for attack. And it's like, that's what I do. Or I'm just like, I am going to int and go talk to cave trolls without knowing their language. And it's like, there's no in between for me where I can like be creative about my actions. And so I'm pretty bad at it, but just like having that experience with friends, it's something that like you don't get a lot these days. Like it's so like
I mean, you don't get it at all right now. No,
well, yeah,
I'm
sure.
not going around anyone's house at the moment.
But there's so much tension in the world, I feel like right now. And like maybe it's our field as well, but it's like there you never get like a proper break from work. Like compared to a 9-to-5 job, we never go home, quote unquote. Like we can always do more content. We can always reach out to more people. We can always do more. So it's hard to give yourself that break. But those D&D sessions where you just go to someone's house and just play D&D, that was like first time in a long time where I just felt like I got a break from reality and just had a good time. So I loved it.
Damn, dude, that's insightful. That you're right. I felt it yesterday.
You're welcome.
No, I felt it yesterday. And you were talking about the creative freedom. That's why I did the thing that I did where I was like, I realized that I'm not going to kill this earth elemental that was in the middle of the arena. So that's why I opted to push the elemental into the lava rather than trying to attack it, because that would just be futile if I just kept on trying to attack the elemental. And yeah, and I think it's cool. Like it's cool that Joe like allows that kind of creative freedom. I didn't realize it's like really, I can't even imagine what it's like to be a DM. Like,
oh, dude, so stressful, so
it's crazy
stressful.
because you're literally weaving this story, and then you have to also come up with like Joe is really good. Like it's unreal.
Joe's one of the best DMs that I've played under. You know that
because you DM'd the first story, right, Bren? Like,
dude, it's so much to keep track of because you have to have options for various paths that people might go down, but also at the same time you have to be flexible and fluid enough to not railroad your the people you're DMing over. And you want them to feel like it's I don't know, you know what I mean. You don't want it to feel forced, like you're leading them down your story. You got to be flexible with it.
Yeah, I know that's oh, dude, it was so fun. I like so then when that happened, but after we were done, and then you guys were talking about the Wayfarer series and stuff, and I just got into like a crazy fantasy kick, and I just went like my brain just wanted to be transported to another world. I loaded up Minecraft for a little bit, and I was like, it's not tickling. It's not, because I know that like this is all. I love Minecraft, and you know it's gonna continue to be a big part of my life for a while. But it's like not the fantasy element, you know. It's just not there. I want the adventure, but I also want the adventure with other people. So then I went and one of my favorite YouTubers is a Force Strategy. gaming, and he did a video on Black Desert Online. So I was like, you know what? Let me try out Black Desert Online. Let me just download this thing and give it a whirl. So I downloaded it. Sucked. Didn't like it at all. Like first like 5 minutes of the game, I was just not engrossed in this world. It was confusing. It just felt really weird and forced and not not engrossing, right?
Classic.
So then I put out a tweet and I was like, all right, I want to play an MMO, but I know everyone was going to hit me with World of Warcraft. I knew it. I was just looking for maybe some other answers. And someone was like, Phantasy Star Online 2. I was like,
Wait,
I've always wanted to play this game. So I downloaded Phantasy Star Online 2. Haven't played it yet. There's a reason why. And then someone said, bro, you want the fantasy, man? You want the story? Final Fantasy 14. Just get it. And so I bought it and downloaded it. And then the second I heard that theme song at the beginning of the freaking thing, I knew I was home. I knew I was home. That song, like if you don't know the prelude, the Final Fantasy prelude is like, dude, but it's just the way that the chorus and everything just slaps you right in the freaking face. Like it just hits you. And then like you're just like, I know this feeling. And that was what I was looking for. So now I'm playing Final Fantasy 14.
I mean, you kind of
online.
pick your universe, right?
What do you mean?
Like, we can talk about, well, oh my God, this is gonna sound so dumb. But like, what's that book series you're reading, Bren?
Wheel of Time.
Yeah, isn't that like a separate fantasy world?
Yeah, it's building like on similar concepts that Tolkien wrote.
Yeah,
Sort of this concept of like good versus evil.
yeah. So
A
there's like
journey
that.
across the
There's
world.
like that, Lord of the Rings, Warhammer. Like they're different worlds, and like I find that Final Fantasy is like a different universe that caters to a lot of people. Some of it is nostalgia, but some of it also like
Yeah, like
I don't wanna say
the
weeb, but-
crystals and the war, because that's always been Final Fantasy story, right? It's like the crystals and warriors of light has always been like the story surrounding Final Fantasy. Not always, but that's like at its core, it's always been that. Whereas like Warcraft has always been about, the struggle of the factions.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy's always been about the crystals and the gods and all that stuff. It's not not weeby. I don't think it's weeby, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you pick your fantasy and like what you most identify with, and that's how you get the most immersion kind of experience by picking what universe relates to you the most. So,
do you guys play MMOs like that for immersion, or is it just because you just want to min max, get high level, get sweet gear, kill people?
Classic one, definitely. I mean, I just play to like get a break, like in my day, where I can just kill treants and elementals and dark iron dwarves who are destroying bridges and shit. I don't know. Like it's just.
I'm kind of over the MMO genre. I think just because you play enough of them, you kind of see past the veil that disguises it.
That's true.
I don't know how best to describe it, but I feel like you play enough, you learn the sort of mechanics that are just there to keep people playing.
But you're looking at it from a very like statistical, like analytical perspective. You're not thinking about.
But it's been a long time.
You're not thinking about the adventure. You're thinking
it's been a long time since I've had a game suck me in because of the lore. You know what I mean?
That's
just
true.
Doesn't really
That's
happen.
true. Well, what was the thing that attracted you about Overwatch? Was it the lore, or what? Was it like the story in the world, or was it just the gameplay purely?
I like TF2. It looked like TF2. I played it. It wasn't TF2. And then I keep playing it because I like shooter games. I also at that point I was playing a ton of Dota as well at the same time, so I wasn't unfamiliar with MOBAs. I really liked MOBA aspects, and Overwatch was a mix of the two concepts, like the arena shooter mixed in with kind of abilities and the MOBA concept of heroes. So it seemed interesting. That's what dragged me in, I suppose.
So are any of you guys? But okay, I guess though to an extent, then the conversation, like maybe that's what you guys play D&D for then, right?
Yeah, D&D is way more about. I mean, I find Joe's world that he's built because Joe has his own world. Like D&D is sick because you can play whatever. You can. There's like campaigns you can buy. There's free ones that just set up this world, a general overarching world. Forgotten Realms, I think, is the general one, generic one.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's really generic, but people add to or they create their own worlds, their islands, these territories, whatever, and they can run their campaigns in it. Joe's built this entire world himself, which I find really interesting. Now, I don't know if he likes this, but I just I sometimes I just make shit up and I leave it up to him to fit it in. Like
Yeah.
in the recurring campaign, I've made up that my character used to hunt orcish tribes across the desert plains. And I was like, and he was like, "Well, I got to write that one in now. Thanks, Bren." And I'm like, "Yeah," but I find it much cooler to be exploring this new world that he has created because it all fits in very thematically with one another, almost.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I think maybe I wonder if there will ever be a game that does that because for me, like I'm really looking forward to Hightail, right? Like
Hightail.
Hightail, yeah, I'll post it. So essentially, what Hightail is, um, it is a world or it is a game created by the people who made the Hypixel Minecraft server. Um, so it comes from that group of individuals.
Right.
And let me see if I find the announcement trailer for you guys so you can
Yo,
take a look
this
at it.
looks sick.
So it is really awesome. It looks incredible. I put it in the Google Doc. It looks
Oh my
awesome, and
God.
also I'll put the website for you guys too. And the reason why I'm excited for this is because one, I like Minecraft, right? I've become a fan of Minecraft very late in my life, but I have become a fan of Minecraft. But I've always just liked the fantasy element in games, like, and I never really found something that like quite caught that attention besides like Final Fantasy, right? Um, where like people have like living, breathing worlds that they, can create stuff around, and Hytale is kind of looking like that for me. Now, a lot of it view it as like a spiritual successor to Minecraft, and even Notch, who doesn't work on Minecraft anymore, but Notch has gone on the record saying that Hytale looks fantastic and that he supports it 100%.
Isn't Notch a mad conspiracy theorist?
Well, but he's still the creator of Minecraft. I don't know anything
I
about
think
him, but
they've taken him out of the credits.
Does he really?
he still made
Yeah.
Minecraft. We can't
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
that.
he did. He did. He did.
Like he still made Minecraft. He's still the reason why millions of people have enjoyed this voxel genre, right? So anyway, so this game kind of takes all those elements of Minecraft and then I think, builds upon it, right?
Right.
Worlds and characters, introducing magic, things like that. It just looks really cool, and it's something that I'm just really excited for. But I wonder if we're gonna just get to the point where, like, are we ever really gonna have that immersive world that when we load into it, it just makes us I don't know how to phrase it.
You're
but
essentially talking about VR. Or not VR, but like when you get to the point where like you step
Yeah.
out of reality and live your life on a server.
Well, I always
essentially.
think about like Sword Art Online, like this one of my favorite animes, the first arc, by the way, not the other ones. I didn't really care much for the other ones.
Yeah.
Sword Art was just so, and I know it was
That
VR.
had a lot of potential.
It really did. And then they just beefed it, man.
Yeah, they kind of fucked it.
That is one that I think both of you should watch, though. The first season
I
of Sword Art Online.
I disagree.
Why not? It's so good. It kind of captures everything that I'm talking about here.
Nah, it's not a good first. It's not a good anime to show to people who are trying to get into anime, unless they're like,
If you're a gamer, I think it is.
I don't think so because it has too many of the classic tropes that you look past if you're a fan of anime already. But if you're new to the genre, you won't be able to get past it and it'll ruin it for you.
Fair
That's my
enough.
opinion.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't think it's that bad. The whole point is the I'm just trying to say is that like that anime kind of represented what I was always like excited about when it came to sprawling immersive worlds. And I don't know if Hytale's going to be that. I would like for it to be that. Because Minecraft is like not quite that, but it's still really good. But it doesn't quite do that for me because I guess like I'm always detached from how just blocky everything is, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like Hytale kind of gets the atmosphere and the cartoonish vibes of it while still giving the characters life. I don't know how to explain. I don't know if I'm explaining it right.
I don't know how you're explaining it either.
But
Can
I just want that immersion, dog. That's it.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question, which most likely will be pretty boring for the listeners?
Okay.
But I'll ask you guys because you can relate to me in a way. How do you guys, as professionals, like separate like your work time with your time off? Because I love getting lost in games and just like grinding, but sometimes I play a game for like 45 minutes and I'm like, I should be working, or like I should be doing something else, or like I should be streaming, I should be researching, I should be doing something else. And I have a really hard time just playing games for fun these days. And I noticed yesterday actually that when I looked back on my day, everything related to video games was like work. And my actual like off time was not so much with video games. And I think I just kind of lost myself in the sauce. And I just like, how do you guys approach off time and work time in video games like that?
Maybe Josh can answer this since he hasn't spoken for like an hour.
Yeah.
That's true, actually.
I mean, you've just been talking about anime and shit. It all goes over my head. I just create a list of tasks that I need to do for the day, and then if I get through the tasks, as long as I get through them, then I'm fine doing anything else for the rest of my day. That's basically it. Like I read a bit in the morning. I'll read before I go to bed. I don't feel the need to do any work like when I first wake up and when I'm going to bed. Like that's kind of me time. And then in the middle of the day, I'll bounce between stuff. Like I'll do some work, and then when I get bored of my work, I'll play a game or something, and then I'll go back to my work. I don't know. I don't really have the problem, so I haven't needed to come up with a solution, unfortunately. But yeah,
So you're saying you're better than us? Is what you're saying?
No, I just don't have the. I don't have the that like nagging thing to get back to my work. I guess that because I know that I will get to my work at some point, so I'm not bothered about it when I spend time. Like I set out a bunch of VODs that I need to watch beforehand, so I know the amount of time that it's going to take, and so I don't feel bad taking an hour because I know that I can still get it done that day.
So I just need a schedule.
Maybe, yeah.
What did you say, Johnny?
Like when you were grinding Path of Exile, you had a huge Path of Exile phase.
Yeah. That was because I needed something to feel progression in my life. You know what I mean?
It sounds so bad.
I didn't need because I think working as a commentator, it's hard to establish if you're doing anything right because the only people who can really judge that are your colleagues.
You're treading water a lot of the time.
Yeah. So it feels difficult to get any sort of sense of progress in your life that you would from a normal 9-to-5 job where you can get a raise or you get complimented or more responsibilities. With commentating, it's very much a journey of self-reflection and trying to get better on an individual basis. So I started slamming Path of Exile, and it was at the same time that I said to myself, I'm going to stream as much as I possibly can, but I'm going to completely throw away this mentality of streaming to gain more and more viewers, and only streaming because I want to stream and only streaming games I want to stream, which is counterproductive. And I've spoken to a lot of streamers who are like, no, you got to, plan out what you play. You got to play the most popular game. If I cared about growing my stream, I'd be playing Overwatch every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But instead I'm just playing stuff that I want to play because I know it gives me happiness and also at the same time a sense of productivity in a way because I am streaming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, do you ever feel like when you stream for like, do you guys always feel productive when you stream? Like, not simply Josh, but like everyone. Do you guys feel productive when you stream? Sometimes I can feel like I'm streaming and I'm like putting a lot of work in and like I'm doing all of this stuff, putting a lot of energy. Sometimes it's pretty mentally taxing.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like, am I like, is this right? Is like the time I'm
My
putting into streaming correct? Or like what's like, I don't know.
I just put in however much energy I'm feeling at the time. My stream knows this by now, but I've got a good like 100-ish people that just watch me go AFK for 30 minutes while they watch videos of Asian food markets. And I go and make food or make a cup of tea and I come back and I'm like, what's going on, guys?
Yeah.
I just leave my stream on. I don't know. I think streaming's, I don't know. Like but when I decided I'm only going to stream for fun, I just put a lot less effort into it, and as a result, I have more fun. And when I'm having more fun, I want to put more effort into it. It's like this weird feedback loop that
Yeah.
shouldn't
Yeah.
work, but is.
I think
You know?
that sometimes I can stream for like 10 hours and I get off and I have like 5 emails and something that I forgot to get to in the morning that I now have to get to, and it's, I don't know, I only have a couple of hours to do it, and I feel like, oh, for fuck's sake, I shouldn't have streamed today. But that's what I've been doing recently, is if I've got a bunch of busy stuff, I just don't stream the whole day. Like, I'm not going to try and fit in a 4-hour stream that cramps up all the rest of my work, when I could just stream and dedicate all my time to it another day. And then I'll carve out a day, like tomorrow I'm doing a charity stream with David from the Gladiators, and I'm only going to stream all day. Like, I'm going to spend today not streaming, getting all of the work done that I need to get done. And like, maybe if I have 5 hours at the end of the day, yeah, maybe I'll turn my stream on. But my plan today is not to stream. It's just to get everything normal out of the way and then kind of do all of the prep work for that stream the next day. And that way you kind of dodge the problem of, oh, should I be spending all of this time doing it?
Yeah. I would say I'm in a different boat because my work isn't like very clear. Right? Like, I know that every Wednesday for the next few weeks I have Titan Games voiceovers, right? That is like the one thing that I have that is consistent. But beyond that, it's like so freaking random, and there's no like clear guidance, if that makes sense. Like, so this Saturday I'm casting the Twitch Rivals thing for Valorant, right? Sweet. Then, during the week I'll have 4 heads whenever we do it. And then, I have my streams and it's just weird because I don't really have like work, and I should be like reviewing VODs and stuff, but there's just not a lot to review. So I'll probably like review Twitch Rivals because that's like the latest tournament that's like worth looking at. But even then, I'm going to be casting it, so a lot of the stuff will be just retained in my brain. I'll probably watch the EU stuff just to get like an idea.
Yeah.
And that's it. And even then, I've always been pretty shit at reviewing VODs. Like, it's never been something that I've been particularly good at. Mostly because I just get split in my attention. And then, and then there's been the issues like throughout the last like few weeks, right? With and especially like this week with the protests and everything. And it has been and this has been more recent. So it's been like, hard for me, I think, to try and split off all the stuff that's like going on, and just the honestly the mental stress that seeing people who I thought I looked up to, be against this and constantly developing, and then hearing the fireworks or whatever the hell is going on and the helicopters whizzing overhead in New York. It's honest. It's been like a little weird, I would say like yesterday was probably the first time in quite a while where I actually felt pretty good. And I think part of it was because I just started to express myself a little bit more on social media rather than trying to like keep everything in. I know that's like a different topic that we'll get to, but it's helped me out. So for me, and it's interesting, Josh said it, I've always been told, like, just make a schedule. you know who is telling me this. And I don't want to mention it another time and then get chastised by our listeners and viewers. And then I don't, because like I've never operated my life that way. Like a buddy of mine actually today told me that his job told him that or two of my friends, Crazer and Ghost, they were like, oh yeah, my job said I could work from home from September, and Ghost for him was till October that he could work from home. And then I was like, dude, good, because like honestly, man, like going somewhere like is stupid. Like going to an office is dumb. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, and it's fine.
No.
But I genuinely believe it's just like a complete waste of money. Like we've proven that a lot of people can do their jobs from home. Not a lot of jobs can be done from home, but a lot of people can do their jobs from home.
Yeah,
Also,
I've been on
there
that
is-
bandwagon for a long time. I think, sorry, Bren, I'll let you go on, but I just want to say, I think it comes down to a lot to personality as well. Like whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I can see how a lot of extroverts want to be in that office, but me as an introvert, I don't want to freaking go to the office. Like, I can just do this shit from home. So,
Some
yeah, Bren.
people struggle with productivity unless they actually go to an area that they define in their heads as work.
Yeah.
So I noticed this with my friends in the UK when the quarantine hit, and they started working from home. And work from home for them meant working really hard for the first hour and then playing Warzone for the next 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's some people need that office environment, but
It's
I think
true.
it's also opened the eyes for people that the office environment is just a facade that they turn up, appear like they're working, but actually try their hardest not to work, but appear like they're working. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah,
it's-
productivity in the office is.
Yes.
What was I feel like it was there was like a study that tried to measure productivity in the office and came out to something like 44%. Like people are.
I mean,
only,
what is productivity? Like,
I think it's you
How
would
are you
judge
defining
that
it?
as if you were working at your max rate the entire time, you would produce X amount of, like, say you're, I don't know, say you're just writing an essay constantly, right? You're just writing all the time. If you were writing at your peak rate of writing, you would have produced 8 reels of paper. But actually, what happens is people slack off and people are doing other stuff, and they pause for a while and they end up only producing like 2-3 reels of paper. You know what I mean? Like there are in some jobs there are very real ways of being able to measure productivity based on your end result that you've kind of created, whatever that job might be. I'm gonna try and look it up because I don't know whether I'm misremembering.
When I was
I
at
also read
Twitch, I had zero productivity, bro. Like I would just fucking walk around and eat snacks all day. Like that's what I did. I was more productive when I worked in Brooklyn. When I first got my job, I was way more productive when I was in Brooklyn, and then I moved to San Francisco, and all that just went to shit. And I don't know, like, and that's why I left. Like I just didn't enjoy it. I don't know.
Oh, I think what I'm misremembering here is this study where Microsoft Japan moved to a 4-day work week and it boosted their productivity by 40%.
Yeah.
Right.
So even though
apparently 4-day work weeks are the wave. That's what I was reading as well.
there you go.
Yeah, this was a lot of the talk when I was in, I don't know if it's high school or college or whatever, but when I was in my teenage years in Sweden and studied whatever, they were like, if we cut back the hours from 8 hours to 6 hours, people will naturally be more productive, because those 2 hours at the end of the day, you're so fatigued anyway and so demotivated that if you just go home and have a good time, you'd come in next day and do more work than you would. So
Yeah.
like just shortening the work week every day is actually helping as well.
Cynthia's job in San Francisco, she worked at the SPCA, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was basically like animal care and stuff.
Sick.
Yeah, it's pretty dope, and it's like a nonprofit. Some of them are nonprofit, some of them aren't. But anyway, she worked at this spot, and they changed to a 4-day work week, but she would work longer. She would work 10 hours, I think.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun.
Well, yeah, because they had to, they weren't changing their pay. They were removing a day. But she liked it way more because she would get like 3 days off, which was like whatever. It varies. Everyone's like, I've heard of different things. I do think though that the idea of going into an office is hot trash. like for a lot of companies.
I mean, I think
it's
the
garbage.
Zoom calls are pretty hot trash as well for being able to, like, if you actually need to communicate with a group of people to brainstorm or come up with ideas, or to, if you frequently have to have in person meetings to be able to bring your ideas to people above you and coordinate. If your work can't be done on your own, then meeting face to face is, in my experience, almost always better.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying don't meet face to face or don't work face to face. I'm just saying that what Ghost and his company is now like doing apparently is they may even potentially work from home moving forward like indefinitely, but go to the office every 2 days or every 2 days out of the week. They'll go to the office and then work on projects they need to work on. I'm just curious to see what ends up happening with all of that. But anyway, I got detracted from it. The whole point that I was saying is like, if you need the separation, sure, it makes sense. But it really comes down to recognizing that you have to try and make that schedule, like what Josh does. That's probably why Josh's output of content has been, in my opinion, dramatically better than like my own. Like I'm seeing Josh put out stuff all the time. Whereas like I've been trying to like get this YouTube crap off the ground and I literally just can't do it. Like no matter what I do, I just can't freaking do the thing that I want to do. And I think it's really good, but I just, I struggle with it.
But I think the epiphany I just had this when asking you guys a question. So I don't know if the viewers enjoyed it. Yeah, I love the word epiphany, by the way.
Yeah.
Epiphany is a S-tier word.
It really is. It's a great word.
Yeah, it is. Solid word.
But I don't know if the viewers enjoyed it, but I certainly had an epiphany.
Epiphany.
That a schedule, for me anyway, it'll be a lot more productive because I currently have a schedule, but my schedule consists of the things I have to do. So it's like on Monday, I have to record Power Rankings, we record Plat Chat, and then we have like the Valorant podcast, and like I have all these things listed out Monday through Sunday, all the things I have to do. A schedule should probably be the things you want to do and the things you want to accomplish. So like, it sounds dumb when you say it like that, but alongside the things you have to do, if you list out the things you want to do, then you'll actually be way more productive listing it out, the things
you mean stuff that isn't like, it's like your aims for the day, right? That's basically what mine is. I try not to put too many for each day though, because you can get to a position where you feel or not even just overwhelmed, but you feel bad at the end of a day not having been able to accomplish all the aims that you set out. Whereas if you can end the day being like, nice, sorted all of that stuff for today, you feel much better about it. So I think there's some kind of middle ground between trying to push yourself and trying to be realistic about it. But I found it to be I always hated the idea of schedules. When I was in school, I was incredibly anti-schedule. I wanted everything to be pretty loose. I didn't want to revise for exams. I didn't want to have things written down for me. I would just get to it if I felt like I had to get to it. Otherwise, I'd use my free time however I wanted it. And then when I started doing esports stuff, I think that I was just more motivated. I think previously in the past, I had just been rationalizing the reasons for my own laziness, essentially. Like when I was at school, I genuinely think that I had just rationalized away a system that allowed me not to do very much work. And all of that was just in my head. And when I actually wanted to do things in esports, I was like, well, fuck yeah, I should make a schedule for it, because how the hell else am I supposed to do it? So I slowly, over the course of the years, have become more and more organized, which I was previously incredibly unorganized.
Yeah. You want to know what my problem is?
Yeah.
Writing stuff down and forgetting to look at it.
Yes. I have auto opening tabs on Chrome, and the first one that opens is a Google document that has, I call it my vision board, which is a concept that I actually stole from one of I stole it from one of Steph's friends. When we had gone out on one morning just day drinking, and Jonathan, Big Al, had been talking about a vision board, which she had used just to pin photos as like a motivational thing to it, of like, you know, like a fitness picture and then like a home picture or something, and it's a visual representation of your future and what you would like to accomplish, which is all well and good. It's quite motivational, but I'm not a very vague thinker. I like things to be hyper specific, and so I did that, but I constructed like different pages for different things. Like I wrote down all the faults that I wanted to work on with myself. I wrote down all of like the book lists that I had. I wrote down all of the
more hair.
And so I just kind of structured each page like that, and at the top of it is my to-do list. And so that's what keeps me focused.
I had something similar. I never remember that idea, the vision board. But I feel like the American Psycho sometimes, because currently my Amazon cart, I have a whiteboard, like a massive whiteboard.
Yeah.
And the idea is that, so I live in a studio apartment, right, in downtown, and it's pretty like I don't have room for like a couch. Like where I am now, this is my room. This is my living room and my kitchen in one. And then I have like a bedroom behind me or whatever. I don't have room to put down a couch and like hang up a TV, because a couch would be right here. It would be right here.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have room for it. So instead of a TV, I had the idea that I wanted to buy a whiteboard and just put up a whiteboard, a giant whiteboard, like classroom kind of whiteboard.
Yeah.
And I just write all my ideas down, and it'd just be like scribblings of like an actual maniac and a psycho. But it'd be like
I like that.
But it'd be like all the things I wanted to do. So like in a corner of the whiteboard, it'd be like, I want to improve my cooking skills. So like I want to learn how to make my own ramen broth. I want to be able to go to a fishmonger and like buy fish and like debone it and like get fresh fish like that I've deboned and like filleted properly and like whatever. I want to be able to make my own pasta, and I just put it on the whiteboard. So every time I wake up and I go past this whiteboard, it just be everything like I wanted to accomplish. And like one day, you know, I just feel it. I just tap into it. Like today's the day where I learn how to make my own ramen broth. And like I think it's really important to, on a day-to-day basis, remember what you want to accomplish. So a vision board in that sense is like super beneficial, because it's like a consistent reminder of like what you want to.
Johnny, you can get a couch.
Mindset-like.
You can
No, I don't.
Get an armchair, mate. Just get
you can do a small thing in there.
That would be epic.
So what I was gonna do, but then I was too lazy and didn't do it in my studio apartment. But I did part of it actually, but I just got a bunch of curtain rails that I attached to the ceiling, and then separated my kitchen. I made my kitchen quite small, like it would be in the UK, like a UK kitchen. Doesn't need much space. And then I had the rest of the space for myself.
Interesting. Yeah, you got to section it off, you know, like that's how you create.
Yeah, right now, I mean, is that Pringles?
Yeah, currently
Build
my
a wall
section
out of
off is just
Pringles.
Cheez-Its and Pringles.
I mean, look, do the thing you want to do, right? Like I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm just saying that you do want to have. I think that's also another reason why you are having, because like a difficult time, because I struggle with the bedroom. Like if I go to the bedroom and I see the bed and I lay in the bed, I'm gone. I sleep. Like there's nothing I could do. I can't stop it. I know it sounds weird. I just cannot stop it. So I can't lay on my bed and read a book. It's just not something I could do. I have to like sit in a chair like this, or I have to be in my living room in another chair. Like I can't be in a horizontal base and do anything. Okay, because I will fall asleep.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to that. But that's just the Pavlovian response, I think. To being
I'm sorry. What would you just call me?
Pavlonian?
Pavlovian.
Call me
Pavlovian.
Pavlovian.
You know Pavlov's dog?
Pavlov's
You know
dog.
Pavlov's dog?
No.
What?
You guys are so smart. I'm not smart at all. You have to realize.
Pavlov did an experiment where he would ring a bell every time he fed his dog. Pavlovian.
Okay.
Pavlovian. The Pavlovian response. Anyway, he rang a bell every time he fed his dog, and then his dog then associated the bell ringing with food, and he noticed his dog would salivate all over the place when he would ring the bell, regardless if he was fed or not. And that's what it is. When you get into bed, your body associates it with sleep. So that's when you're lying down, you associate it with, oh, it's
So how
sleepy
do I
time.
stop that? How do I end that?
Well, I think
Well,
that's
you don't
perfectly
want
fine.
to. No,
I
yeah,
think it's
you
fine. A
actually.
lot of people have issues where they can't get to sleep in their beds because they watch TV in it or they read in it.
Yeah, or
They
study
have
in it.
trouble
I've heard
sleeping.
stories of people who's like studied, like invited friends over and would study in bed, and now they have problems sleeping, getting quality sleep because they associate it with like
They were
studying.
fucking. They weren't studying. They were fucking.
Well, I
They
was
were
referring
big.
my girlfriend, so now the story is actually quite
Jesus Christ.
No, it's thank you, Bren.
Thanks, Bren. Really put that vision out there. So
Well,
good. Oh God.
well,
What a way to bring that one full
close out the
circle.
episode.
Oh, God.
Let's call it here.
All right. Before we close out, how long have we been going?
We've been going for 110, but I don't think we've talked about, I mean, like the super important shit that's been happening in the world recently.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to, I mean, I've got a stream. I was talking about the charity stream that I was doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that I think is going to be, I mean, I think this episode is going to be posted basically at the same time as the charity stream is going on. Which is, you know, not the greatest marketing in the world, but there you go. So if you're watching this, I'm probably streaming right now or have already streamed. And it's in to benefit Campaign Zero, which I'm going to pull up on the screen right now as well, which is it's a campaign. I mean, that's why it's called Campaign Zero. I was trying to think of a different word there. But it's a campaign that pushes for police reform, accountability, and to end like racial profiling, this kind of stuff. But it provides... It was created when people came to the Black Lives Matter movement and said, well, where are your specific policy proposals? You know what I mean? Like where people try and tear down a movement just by saying, oh, well, you're just protesting it. You don't have the solutions. And so they made this Campaign Zero, which was providing very specific policy solutions to the issue, and trying to lay out. They have like 8 that they want done immediately, and these are the 10 long-term ones that I've got up on the screen now that are like long-term policy solutions for how you could actually end the police brutality and part of the systemic racism that's in the US at the moment. So I think it's a pretty good cause.
Nice.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Definitely go check that out. And yeah, that is actually one of the bigger problems that I've had with all this. So obviously, if you have been living under a rock, there's been massive protests all throughout the world at this point for Black Lives Matter. I want to be very clear with people because I said this yesterday. I stand by the statement. I'll say it again. Just because it is an uncomfortable conversation doesn't mean you should not have the conversation. People who do not realize that we have a small platform where people will, maybe listen to us. We should use it for good and positivity, and that is exactly what this is. People say keep politics out of video games, keep politics out of
That's
That's
unbelievable.
just ignorance. Yeah, it's just ignorance at this point because it affects all of us. It affects everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, it affects you. But it has definitely affected the Black community and people of color. I yesterday, as I mentioned earlier, went on a rant.
Good rant.
I said this tweet, and I'll link it to you guys. And I really want people to see this. Send it, Doc, to understand the significance of this, because this is what I went through in esports. And I will also very, very clearly, since we do have an Overwatch audience, I went through this also in Overwatch in the beginning. It obviously changed, but I was called a fat Mexican. I was called a spick. I was called the N-word. I was called a hood rat. I was called a piece of trash. I was, I was called a brown bastard. I was called a bunch of things in gaming and in esports. And I said in the tweet, as Dwayne Johnson said in his great video, his "Where Are You" video, he said, you took the lumps. I took the lumps, right? I got punched in the face with some racism, and I took it, and I just moved on, and I was like, screw it, I'll just do my thing. But there comes a point where like you have to just become sick and tired of seeing this. It's not right. We shouldn't allow it. We shouldn't allow any of this. Like, I'm tired of seeing people say, well, it's gaming. What are you going to do? You can't change it. What are you going to do? Excuse
I
me.
think that's a bullshit argument.
Yeah,
100%. And I see this all the time from people in who are coming from CS over to Valorant, because Valorant's the game I'm playing right now, and it's so evident that there is just a completely drastic change in mentality compared to Overwatch players to Valorant players regarding that. Because Overwatch players, generally speaking, are, I'm not going to say all of them are righteous people who always do the right thing and say the right thing, and they're not racist or whatever. But it's so evident in Valorant how quick people are to jump to these words. And I don't know if it's just because it comes from that sort of CS community where just they've done it their entire lives, and they've always just been racist pieces of shit, and they've just always been that way and never really been told that it's wrong. But it's good that finally, I think a lot of companies, and you can look at this from a cynical point of view, you can look at the companies jumping on the Black Lives Matter movement now as a sort of cynical thing, saying that, well, they're just doing it for profits, right? They're just doing it as a moment of positivity. But there are a lot of companies as well that are doubling down on.
I think it's also excellent, even if they are just jumping on it for positivity.
Right, because
and the reason
it is
because the reason is that the movement has become so powerful that big corporations are forced to kowtow to it. Like, even if they didn't believe it, right? Even if you're going to take the most cynical position of they're just doing it in order for good PR, like, the movement has forced them to make statements about it. Like, that's huge. That shows the power of the protests, and both online and in person, that they have forced these big companies to take that line, at least publicly. That's huge. I mean, that's the whole reason that you protest in the first place, is to make it very clear and obvious to companies, to corporations, to organizations, and to government that you have to follow this line. Like, all right, there'll always be some people behind the scenes who don't fully believe it, but you have to change the public-facing image of it before you can change the hearts and minds. I think you have to force them to accept that that is what they should be doing.
Yeah, I agree.
When I was younger, sometimes I didn't realize how people just remembered random quotes, like when they grew older and like had quotes to live by. But in times like these, it's actually a quote by Penn Jillette, if you know who he is. He was like part of Penn and Teller. He's like a magician.
Oh, right.
Like in Vegas, whatever. He's actually an incredibly wise guy. And I listened to one of his podcasts, but he was a guest on a podcast like half a year ago or something. And he said something that really stuck with me and is more important than ever in a time like this. So back then, the quote was about political differences, but he said essentially that in his internal dictionary, there's a word for that, like in his vocabulary, he stopped saying that, he stopped labeling people as us and them and like trying to like build groups or like, place people in boxes. And instead, he tried to unite people by just using the term us, because that's what it's essentially about, that we're all human, we're all one, we're all equally valuable. It's all about us. And some of us, have a wrong viewpoint and have differences, and we, need to do our best to change their point of view and try to make them understand. But especially in a time like this, I think it's more important than ever to stop grouping people into different kind of categories or try to label people. It's us, and we're all one. And I think this movement is really important for trying to put a spotlight on that fact that we're all equally valuable. And so it's something that I try to do more often as well. It's just to understand that, like, if I, go up to like, this is a weird ass example. But it's like, if I were to go buy a burrito from a, like a Mexican food truck or whatever, sometimes honestly it can be you know, when they start talking like Spanish, or is it Mexican? Is it actually?
No,
Spanish.
there isn't
Spanish.
a specific
Spanish,
language
yeah.
for Mexican.
It's just
Well,
Spanish.
there's like Brazilian. No, Portuguese. Sorry, it's
Yes,
Spanish or
Portuguese.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
Brazilian. They speak Portuguese.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, it can be, you can feel like an outsider because I don't know Spanish. I don't know what you're talking about. So it can be easy to be like, oh, you know, they're the Spanish talking people and I'm like the guy who doesn't understand. And it's easy to feel like you're an outsider. But I think this movement, more than anything, just showcases that it's us, you know, and some of us know Spanish, you know, and you have to really try to understand that you're never an outsider. We're all together and we're all, you know, one humanity, and we're all equally valuable in that regard.
Yeah, I think that the other thing as well there though is that a lot of people try and argue that kind of point. Like now, what's a good way of phrasing this? Like a lot of people will try and argue that that's the way that things should be. Like starting now, everyone should be equal. But the problem with an argument like that is that it ignores the fact that people have already been fucked over in the past and they haven't got to an equal position yet. So like, you know, the concept of being like, it's something that people like white politicians bring up, or like stuff a lot. It's like being colorblind. They're like, oh, I don't see color, that kind of stuff, which is a wonderful aim for, you know, a long time in the future where it would all just be, you know, no one would even pay attention to stuff like that. Yeah. But if everyone stopped paying attention to that right now, then you would still have massive disparities between the opportunities provided to people. Not because people would be directly discriminating at this current moment, but because they have already done in the past, and those consequences still carry on.
Being at a disadvantage, they are not going to be on the same footing as, for example, a white person would be. So if you just ignored race, and for example, if you were doing online applications for a job and ethnicity wasn't listed anywhere, chances are you're going to find a majority of the people who probably seem like, I guess, the ideal candidates in some ways would be white because they have had the advantage of having proper education.
They've had generations of proper education, generations of living in better places, generations of all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think it's
not down to race itself, but because of the advantages they've been given.
Yeah, let me give you some context on this. And it actually is a really good example. You know, I know some people may not know about, you know, the making your money work for you, right? The concept of investing into the stock market and stuff like that, right? I never knew anything about it.
Yeah.
Nothing. No one in my family has ever gotten to the point where they can ever actually take their money and invest it into the stock market. So that is something, and I would even go as far as say that no one in my family and no one in my friend's family, no one around me in my immediate vicinity have a foggy idea as to what it goes and what entails investing into the stock market, right? So, you know, I have had the opportunity to, and, you know, this came through a lot of hard work to have some cash to the side. And my brother was just like, you know what? I've been looking into this, and I think this is something that you should do. You know, like I haven't done it, but I think this is something you should look into. So his fiance, who works for a tax company, right, works with this financial manager, and he you know, coordinated everything. Was like, hey, listen, you know, we work with this guy, he's awesome, you know, just have a conversation with him. Like, sure. We meet with a guy, awesome dude, really nice guy. Kind of looks a little like older Bradley Cooper. Okay. And he's just throwing phrases at us. I mean, he's just saying a whole bunch of things, and we're just like, dude, we don't know. We have no idea what you're talking about. And then he realized, he's like, oh, okay, let me take a step back and explain it some more. So he basically had to like go to the beginning of financial investment and talk to us about how this whole thing works, because we didn't grow up learning any of this. But I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have had mutual funds or whatever set up for them, and, you know, bonds and whatever. Like,
chances are, if you're in that position, you've already, your father probably had a financial advisor.
Yeah,
who
like
came
I
in.
can't turn to my dad and ask him this because my dad only knows about driving trucks and honestly, that's like really it. That's like all he, and like fixing cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's all he knows about, right? He doesn't know about that stuff. My mom, she has no idea, and it's not their fault. It's just that they were priorities that they had to focus on, and that was more important. So them doing this kind of stuff, and this may seem like a really vague example, but I do hope it gives some people any kind of perspective on the fact that like we are not taught these things that can help us be at an equal footing to a lot of other people. And there are going to be a lot of our viewers and people who will be like, and who are white and who will be like, oh, I don't know anything about that stuff either. But I would argue and say that there's a high probability that you may have a family member or they may have a relative like that actually is exposed to that.
Yeah.
Whereas I literally had no one to turn to in my immediate vicinity beside my brother who Googled it one time. Yeah. And that was like as far as it went for us. And again, it may seem really weird and people are going to pick and choose whatever they want to hear from that, but which is a problem all in itself. But but yeah, that's like the experience, that's what it boils down to. And I do want to be, and sorry to consume this, I'm sorry. I just do want to be very clear with a lot of people here as well. Some buffoon tried to debate with me that I need to educate myself on racism because, I'm an influencer and shouldn't be just touting things for no reason. One, guy's a jackass, so I'm just going to leave that one there.
Well, his opening argument was like, you should do more work into this instead of peddling just racism is bad. And I'm like, it's a good starting point, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah, if you're at any point in time ever saying racism is bad, but shut the fuck up. Do us a favor and just go fuck off. Because racism is bad, period. That's it. There's no but. Done.
I had a lot of people, for some reason, the negative side of this kind of, I guess, movement is that it's giving trolls another avenue. Because when I put out my message, obviously, of support, I've had a bunch of people scroll through my following list on Twitter and say like, well, clearly you don't believe in this because you follow Donald Trump. And it's like, that was their justification. They're trying to like goad me into an argument off the basis of this. What was another thing they did? I posted some artwork that someone made of me on Instagram, on my Instagram story. And they were like, this doesn't fucking help right now. Why don't you actually do something that matters? And I was like, oh, some of these people, I don't know.
People just like being contrarians as well.
Yeah,
like it's actually just like it doesn't matter what it is, but like okay, so like racism, that's not where you want to be. Try to like be a contrarian because it's just fucking wrong.
Don't die on that hill, mate. Don't die.
Yeah, like what are you doing? Like rethink your actions.
Yeah, people. There are a lot of people right now. There's a lot of extremes that are existing right now. When maybe we do need some extremes in regards to like getting the message heard, but there can also be a point where there was a video that went out, obviously when the narrative was about rioting and stuff. There was a video that went out of these two black women that were filming these two, I'm presuming white women, that were defacing a Starbucks and putting like BLM and stuff. And they were like, this doesn't help us. They're just going to blame us. And then you can hear that the white woman, covered in all black, by the way, couldn't even see her face or anything in the video, was like, we're doing this to help you. And
this is
like,
Starbucks shit.
Yeah. And then she's like, you're not helping anyone. Like you're causing more problems. Yeah. This doesn't help us.
It's like the guy smashing up the pavement in Atlanta, the white guy that was just smashing up the pavement, and the crowd just dragged him to the police and were like, here you go.
We can make an entire separate episode on this whole shit, right? But like, I don't know, what is this like Antifa shit going on where like they're sabotaging as well, and just like it's madness.
Well, and then the other part too,
absolutely insane.
The shit that boggles my mind is that I gotta see this. Emperor Orange. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of him. If you are, you're just not gonna get that from me.
I don't know who that is.
Trump.
I was like, is that some YouTuber?
Yeah, I thought
No.
so too.
No, it's fine. There's a lot of great terms for him. I will say this very bluntly, as a New Yorker, there are a lot of just New Yorkers that just never liked him. Never liked him even before he ran for president. I never watched The Apprentice. I never supported anything that this guy did. Never went to any of his restaurants. This dude took money from people in the Bronx when they really needed it. Like even before he was president, never liked the guy. So it ain't no bandwagon on this end. You ain't gonna find a sympathetic thought from me on this. Anyway, not too sure if they've labeled the KKK as a terrorist group. I can't seem to find it in my thing, but the fact that he wanted to declare Antifa a terrorist group when Antifa is actually like not a thing, like it's not a actual organization, if that makes sense. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that will argue, but they're not like the Ku Klux Klan is an organization that exists.
Yeah,
Antifa's
more of like a movement or a protest thing. Right?
Yeah, it's anti-fascism. That's what it is.
I'm not educated on it, so I don't know.
Yes, that's what it's supposed to be. Antifa,
I don't know enough about Antifa. I thought they just were the ones who like placed the bricks and like tried to ruin.
I will say, that that about the placing of the bricks and other stuff. There's a lot of video evidence out there that there are groups that I don't know what they are, but there are people out there who are trying to essentially undermine the movement by intentionally placing bricks or rocks or whatever so that people riot with it and destroy property. Another thing that people are doing, I was doing some research into this, is because I was talking to somebody about it and they told me, they were like, oh, have you heard about this DC blackout thing? I was like, no, what is this? And they were like, yeah, apparently there was this period of time where the government just blocks out all communications and whatnot for like a period of time, and nobody knows really what happened there, and there's a bunch of people who have gone missing. So I looked into it, and this was also something. Twitter has since then suspended all the accounts that started the DC blackout trend. And there's evidence that shows that it was a bot network that was set up to spread misinformation about the Black Lives Matter movement, probably from a white nationalist group. There's all this underhanded stuff that's going on right now. That
it's madness.
And I know I go on a lot about my conspiracy theorists about advertisement agencies, but I firmly believe that another one was the Blackout Tuesday that got really spread and a lot of traction very quickly because of the amount of a lot of people just posting obviously the black square in solidarity. That's cool, that's fine, but using the Black Lives Matter hashtag, and it drowned out any and all posts.
Relevant information
with just a black square.
It was originated from the music industry, apparently.
It was using a different. It was called like.
It used a
the
different
show
hashtag.
Must stop or something. The show must.
And it was
the show must be paused.
And it was meant to promote black creators. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that actually could be the case as well. Like Cynthia came to me in the morning. She was like, hey, are you going to post about this? And I was like, well, I'm looking right now and everyone keeps saying, don't post about it. And I'm just confused. And there's just a lot of misinformation. That's the problem, right? There's just too much misinformation. And, it even comes from our leaders as well, which is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And dude, it's just a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
That's honestly the best term.
These kind of movements have always been fought by misinformation, though. It's just never been on social. Well, I say never been. It hasn't been at this level of social media before because it just hasn't been this recent. But the civil rights movement had horrific propaganda against it, like in newspapers and stuff, very mainstream newspapers, of just claiming that Martin Luther King's protests were all hyper violent, and like cartoons about him just being like, oh, time for another peaceful protest, and there's just shit blowing up behind him, Whereas, because I think because the civil rights movement was a positive, and because it ended with at least a reasonable amount of success, the way that history tends to remember it is that it is in a positive light. Whereas if it had been shut down, I'm sure the history would have been rewritten to say that it was a violent thing that got clamped down on.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Cube said it best himself. Like, imagine if we had no cameras for this.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely mental. I mean, the way that the police are acting with cameras on them. Imagine how they act when the cameras aren't on them.
Videos.
Yeah.
One thing
really
I will every day, almost every hour, there's just more.
Yep, just more videos
coming through, and I'm like blowing my mind. What's happening?
And more people.
As Caleb said, I thought Wavepunk had a great tweet. It was like, now is the time to be uncomfortable and just recognize how fucked this is and how bad.
They're firing people who don't have their cameras on though now. Like they're removing them completely, which is a positive step.
There have been positive.
Say, with the amount of posts that have just been, police brutality, people being beaten, non-stop, this flood of information that is accessible at any time. You can just look at it constantly being uploaded. You shouldn't feel guilty about taking a break from it.
No,
I think. And this is one thing that I've been talking to a lot of my friends recently because they've been super down with the current situation because they feel guilty about turning away from it because they're like, well, if I'm not looking at it for a day, if I'm not looking at this constant flow of evidence that's coming in, then I'm just not following the movement, I suppose, or they feel like they're not.
Yeah, you feel like you're ignoring it.
Yeah, I feel like they're ignoring it, but I think you're never going to get anything done unless you focus on yourself and your own mental health first. Unless you're in a good position to even positively change anything in the first place, you're not going to get anything done. So you got to change your mentality into thinking about, you know, I've got to take on the world right now to got to take on the world when I'm good to take it on, if that makes sense. I mean, as long as you rest up and then focus on the issues.
It's a very difficult thing because, again, it goes back to the fact that a lot of us don't get the opportunity to have a break when it comes to that stuff, right? The reality is that, especially for the Black community, right? The reality is that they, what was it? Xavier Woods said, like, I wake up and this is who I am, right? You're not wrong. You're not wrong, right? It doesn't help anyone if you are in a mental rut. It truly doesn't help anyone. So I can understand why, and people are always like tweeting like, I'm just tired of being bombarded by this stuff. And it's like, dude, I understand, but truly think about it from the perspective of a Black person or a person of color. Like, think about it from their perspective. This is the life that they live. There's nothing else that can be done about it, right? So yes, do I want you to be in a good mental state? Yes, I do, and I want to be in a good mental state as well. It's hard. I'm not going to act like there's no right or wrong answer here because you're not wrong for like just wanting to take 2-3 hours just backing away from this stuff, right? Like you're not in the wrong for it. But I think so long as people just continue to understand that this conversation needs to keep going, it can't end after all this.
The most important thing is that you're still empathetic towards it and not apathetic. You know what I mean? You need to not get desensitized to the constant
and you need to do shit. You need to do shit that'll actually help as well. Like add the voice to the protest. If you're a US citizen, participate in elections, and not just federal but local elections as well. Mayors are occasionally appointed positions. District attorneys, state attorneys, I believe, also are as well. Those are important positions for all of this kind of stuff. I can't vote in any of this, but I think that's
we're all trying.
Unbelievably important thing.
One tweet that really stood out to me and like hit me kind of hard, like in a mental health kind of way, was it's a privilege to just have to learn about Black history and racism rather than to actually live it, which is a pretty, like that kind of like hit me like a punch. But at the same time, it's important to remember that the system is sort of rigged in that regard, because a lot of like history that we should have been taught is simply not taught in the school system, in our upbringing. Like they're
Yeah.
purposely leaving a lot of shit out in the history books that should be in there to give us a better insight and more perspective. Like, for example, the most popular example is, it probably has a name, I can't remember, but like 100 years ago in like Oklahoma, like the African American Wall Street in Oklahoma. It's the start of the HBO series,
Yeah, it's
Watchmen
start
or
of
whatever.
Watchmen.
Oh
Yeah. Like
yes,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
an actual historic thing, and no one like really knows about it because
It
we
was
weren't
erased in
taught.
American history.
Yeah, we weren't taught like in our upbringing. But that's important shit to recognize, that hundreds of African Americans were actually murdered because they found success, and that's important to learn in your childhood.
The
to bring
Tulsa
with you.
Race Massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's what it
that's
was.
actually a crucial piece of history that should be in the history books, and that a lot more people should know about. But the system is sort of rigged against that kind of knowledge, and that's the kind of shit we need to fix, and that's the kind of shit we can't never forget. We can never forget shit like this going on and happening.
Yeah. In the UK, with the I don't know about you, Josh, but when I was doing history at like the GCSE level, I don't know, did you even do history at GCSE
Yeah,
level?
yeah.
Yeah. The we did learn about a lot of this, but we learnt about the earlier systemic sort of issues. But what I didn't realize when I moved here was that it was still ongoing and they hadn't really built upon it. Like in a to a certain degree, they had. But we learned when I was in school about the slavery and how that sort of fed into the Civil War to a degree.
Yeah,
The
the
Civil
civil
Rights
rights
Movement,
movement as well.
Rosa Parks. But beyond that, I didn't really know much. But I knew that this was recent history for Americans. Moving here, I was under the impression that it was more progressive, and it is to a degree. But I think what this recent event has really done is open my eyes that there is still an incredible amount of systemic oppression in the United States from just the systems that have been built off the back of it. Like
it's awful.
how could you not, when the foundations of the United States of America were built on slavery and were built on some of these laws?
Yeah, I think the devil's in the details, right? It's like very specific legislation that was put into place that has compounded upon itself. And I mean, and also like the militarization of the police as well is it's not necessarily a race issue. The fact that the police have been so militarized, but it compounds upon the race issues to create a really horrific system as well, where the police are incredibly brutal and then incredibly brutal and to a very specific racial profile that they assume are the people committing the crimes. Yeah. There have been positives to come out of the protest already. The thing that I wanted to go to before some of this stuff though is that the counter arguments to some of the protesting has been like riots, which I think we've discussed a little bit about already, but also the fact that like riots are an inevitable part of a society that doesn't let its people feel valued. You will, in any society that breaks down, you will get riots. The natural inclination of people is to be violent, I think, if they don't have a societal pact in place. And if they feel that their societal pact is one-sided and that they're giving and they're not receiving anything back, you're going to get them. Like, that's just the reality. Like, everybody knows that. That's why we have systems in place. That's why we have militaries in place, because we know that the natural tendencies of people is to be violent when their demands are not met. So I think it's completely pointless to be talking about the riots as if they haven't been caused by the problems. Like, you need to fix the problems in order to fix the riots. You can't just clamp down with the military and hope that it all just goes back to normal.
But I wanna talk about like what you're hinting at there as well. Is like, isn't it in some way kind of like predictable though that like this could be an outcome? And that's what really frustrates me with, I mean, like the politics as well. It's just like, this was going to happen if people didn't act and listen and like take appropriate action.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's what's so frustrating.
Yeah, what's that famous
That
Martin
they can't
Luther King
send the
quote?
correct message out and show understanding. But it's It's just. Well,
I'm not gonna lie,
it's
guys.
2020, dude. It's like,
It's a
damn.
it is an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Like even right now, as you guys have been talking, I've just been looking at all this stuff. Like, for example, you mentioned earlier the mayor of DC did something pretty awesome. Put a painted Black Lives Matter and actually changed the street name as well to
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter Plaza. So the section of 16th Street in front of the White House is now officially Black Lives Matter Plaza, which is significant and hopefully keeps the conversation going for a long time. But then, you go to a certain subsection of the internet and it is just, they're still just not getting it. And it's
Yeah.
going to take a really
that's
long
just a
time.
fact of life. There's going to be people who are a product of their environments,
Yeah.
and their opinions probably aren't going to be changed.
I don't think you need to change everyone's opinion, though. It's important to change the
majority.
It's important to change the people in power's opinion. Like that's what's really important. Like, okay, you can have some section of the population who are shitheads and remain shitheads. You can still have that whilst having a society where it's much, much safer for black people to live in. You can have both of those things. You don't have to have everybody on the same page, but it is hyper important that you have policy in place so that the police are on that page. Like you can't have that and the lawmakers and the government be against be like on the wrong side of this. It's hyper important that happens.
Yeah, it's something I was going to say, but and this is where I will end it for myself as far for this, but the problem is that you'll be shocked how many people in this country and how many people around the world live through a lot of the same economical difficulties that lead to a lot of the inequality that exists. And I'm going to just try to put race aside for a minute, only because I feel like there is a conversation happening where people are saying that, and here's the thing, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter, right? That is just that's a fact, right?
Yeah,
that's,
if you want to dive into that,
that is one end of the spectrum. But I just wanted to say that the economic disparities though that exist, and the fact that if only real conversation can happen between so many different individuals across so many different walks of life, so many people would realize that we share so much in common than what the politicians would want you to believe. But you see, it is against their game plan, their agenda for all of us to actually talk to each other, because they're always going to go to folks that, like in middle America, perhaps small town, and tell them, you see that person that lives in New York City, they think they're better than you. And they're not. No one thinks that. No one thinks that anyone's better. Like, no one is going to think that, right? But they're going to go to these people and tell them this, and they're going to say, like, those people are trying to hurt you. And if only we actually just spoke to one another and realized that is not the case, that these people who are rich, who are trying their best to create as much divide in this country and in this world as possible, they win when we don't talk to each other, because they will continue to profit off of your despair, your anger, your hatred, and they're going to keep fueling it, and they're going to keep telling you that you are struggling because they are thriving. You are struggling because they live in a coastal city or whatever. And that's just not true, because I grew up incredibly poor, and there are a lot of other people that I met in my time in esports, traveling with so many different people, that they also grew up poor, and they also grew up without those opportunities. But because of the fact that they're being told constantly that they're being taken from them, that those opportunities are being taken from them, it just serves right into those people's agendas. We need unity. We need conversation. We need to talk with each other. And we need actual change in this country. We need actual reforms across the board. It's not just And a big one, obviously, is law enforcement. But we also need reforms in infrastructure, for Christ's sake. Why is it that people can't freaking take a train from one state to another easily? Why is it that that is not a thing? People are going to be like, oh, the country's too big. Look at Europe. You mean to tell me they can have train systems operating? I know this is going to seem really random to a lot of people, but it's because they do a good job. Even though the internet has connected us, we're still as divided as ever because we can't actually go to these places because they're just not, it's not reachable for us. There's so many things that layers upon layers that I could dive into, and I really don't want to dive into it, but there's just so many things that need to be reformed in this country, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to be a long, long journey. Sorry if I ranted.
To focus on your point of having these little subsections of America or whatever, where it reminded me of there's a Mark Twain quote that's so apt for that kind of scenario, for this situation, and it says, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime." And I think it's a big part of that is the fact that it is definitely an us versus them mentality that's been hammered home for the past 4 years, if not longer. But in recent times, it's been over the course of people in leadership positions just kind of hammering home this us versus them mentality, which doesn't help at all. Not in the slightest. But I just wanted to say as well, there's going to be some people watching this who are saying, well, don't all lives matter? And that's I've seen posts from people who don't mean anything wrong by saying that. That's just the first thing that they think of. You guys can add on to this as well, but the issue with saying that all lives matter is that it takes power away from the Black Lives Movement in the first place, because it denies the fact that people of color have been treated differently. They are subjected to more brutality when it comes to law enforcement as a whole, and just removes away some of the momentum from the actual Black Lives Matter movement, which is a big reason why this All Lives Matter tag that often gets thrown around as like a sort of counteract to it, a sort of counter argument, if you will, it's pretty bad in the first place to even think about it in that sort of way.
It just totally misses the point. Like people that spam that have not understood what the movement means at all. The movement means that Black Lives matter as much as everybody else. And it's
not that they matter more.
Yeah, not that they matter more. It's reminding people that they do, because clearly society has forgotten that they matter. Like that's the point. Like you're starting from a position where the actions of society indicate that they believe that Black lives do not matter. Like if you just took a look at America, this is the aim of the movement, that you would believe that Black lives didn't matter because the police are treating them like trash, because of systemic racism everywhere, because they get denied proper opportunities, this kind of stuff. So the movement is reminding people that Black lives do matter as much as everybody else. And so to say all lives matter is to miss the point completely of focusing in on one group of people that have been ignored and mistreated.
If all lives matter, then Black Lives Matter. So you might as well say Black Lives Matter to have the movement.
Yeah. But there's some people that are innocently saying that tag because they don't know any better, and they think it's a mindset thing. They just need to you just need to shift your mindset into
some people are deliberately using it.
And I would say the majority are using it deliberately to take away momentum from the Black Lives Matter movement and to diminish it.
The other big thing is the coronavirus as well. Like we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are grouping up in enormous protests, right? And so I've seen a lot of objection to that too. It's like
Sweden had a big controversial thing about that.
Sure, because you're actually going to directly cause harm by grouping up like that. There is no debate. Well, I mean, there's some debate about how it's going to spread and stuff like that. But if you assume that grouping together in large groups is a bad thing, which by all accounts it seems to be, then you are directly going to cause deaths by grouping up together like that. And so isn't it unethical to group up in large protests for a movement like this? But I would argue that it isn't, because you have to commit to the momentum of a movement like this if you ever want to see the change actually occur. There have been protests, tons of protests in the last 10 years. I think the Black Lives Matter movement started in like 2012 or something. I might be wrong with the exact date there, but in the last 10 years, there have been a lot of big protests, but they've been in individual cities. I think this is the first year where there's been huge nationwide protests like that. And to allow the movement to dissipate and kind of trickle away because of the risk of deaths due to coronavirus, I think would have more long-term negative impact, because you would allow an amazing opportunity to enact real change that can save a lot of lives and increase the quality of life for the black community in the US massively in the future. You would allow that opportunity to slip through your fingers. And I don't think that opportunity can be allowed to slip through people's fingers. You have to keep on with the momentum of this movement now that it looks like it is a winnable fight. That's why I think a lot of people are jumping on board as well, is because they realize that this is something that can be won. Like previously, other movements, it can be very easy to just be like, yeah, I mean, I agree with it, but I'm not going to do anything because I'm just one person. Like this, the whole thing with voting, right? People feel disinclined to vote. There's a lot of voter apathy because you're just one person. But when you see that amount of people all caring as much or even more than you feel inclined to go out and be activated because you want to be part of something bigger. You believe in it. You can see the success. And so I think to let the opportunity trickle away would have more long-term negatives even than the short-term negatives that are undoubtedly going to come in the form of coronavirus deaths because of these protests.
Yeah, and you know we're not going to know the results of all the coronavirus cases for at least like another 2-3 weeks. But unfortunately, we are already starting to see a spike, and that was before the protests had even started. So you know the message is still going to remain the same, folks. You know, stay safe, right? Wash your hands, cover your face, do what you can, right? You're not wearing a face mask to protect yourselves from people. You're wearing a face mask to protect people from you.
Yeah.
So you know, please recognize that. And you know, I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole and rant, and I'll be very honest with you. I know that I could sometimes say things and it may not make a lot of sense. But you know, I just really do believe that now is the time where we have to have these hard conversations more than ever. I want to see this change happen. I want to be able to cast an event and not see a comment that says you're a spick. That would be great. I would love. I mean, are we ever going to get to that point? Probably not. I don't know. But hell, I will freaking keep fighting until my last dying breath to make that thing a reality. So
I think it's more likely that we do. Personally, that's a more positive. I'm normally quite pessimistic with a lot of stuff, but I think that it's quite likely as long as you keep the momentum going, and also with the fact that esports is an industry that attracts a lot of younger people, and younger people tend to be more progressive than the previous generation.
I
Or
think globalism in this day and age is helping a lot, and I think that's going to progress.
Go on, Josh. Are
Yeah.
you going to bring it down? Are you going to bring it
No,
up?
I'm not going to bring it down, but I think that your point about younger people is true. Esports does have a lot of young people. Young people are very impressionable as well, is what I was going to say. And so if you allow them to believe that kind of action is appropriate, that language like that is appropriate, they will just do it. Like, it doesn't matter whether they are more progressive in terms of what they state or whatever. But if you create an environment where you say that is absolutely unacceptable, then I think you can start to weed that out, much more so with young people than you can do with older people who've already got those attitudes ingrained in them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Long road, but I know we went on for a while. I figured
It's important.
I figured it was either, you know, it's funny because we had the idea to talk about it at the beginning, and then we started talking about
Sugar gliders.
But yet, you know, that's the podcast.
Listen, you can't just force stuff. You can't force the triangle into a square. You gotta just go with the flow. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Fair enough.
I think
fair enough.
the better analogy is like you can't go against the river. You gotta go with the river.
Can't milk a chicken.
Yeah, milk a chicken is the classic analogy.
I think you can if you
What?
try really hard.
We'll save that for next episode.
What's
I don't wanna know.
Okay.
What's the quote from Meet the Fockers? It's anything with nipples can be milked.
Yeah.
It says, I have nipples, Greg.
I have
Can you milk
very
me?
weird visions in my head. Stop it. Oh.
All right, we're gonna end it there, guys. Check out Josh's stream. Check out Campaign Zero. It's a great initiative with some real messaging to get some actual change done in this country and around the world. Let's not also forget about all the protests that have happened all around the world. This is an issue that affects a lot of people, and let's keep fighting, and let's
Vote.
end.
Sign up to vote if you're a US citizen. Sign up to vote in
Yes.
local elections. Find out when they're happening and go and vote in them. Most of the time, local elections get very few voters. You can have a larger impact there.
It's very true. It's very true. And last thing I'm going to say is racism is bad, period. So let's end this shit.
Yeah.
You have a good one. Take it easy, guys. Peace.